Okay, welcome back to a very special second season of the Scumbag, where I managed to actually book episodes, get them produced, actually record them, that kind of thing. I'm with Vincent D'Onofrio here. I actually managed to get him on. He's magically here. Vincent?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just listening to your introduction. I loved it. It was awesome. Good.
There we are. Yeah, this is a very professional podcast as well, where I prepare absolutely nothing and I don't even know how the technology I'm using works. But I got Vincent on because of the extremely online celebrities. Vincent, you seem to be probably the most real. I think it was like a year and a half ago, maybe I started seeing you really interact with people, really talking to people, that kind of thing. And I'm just wondering what actually made you do that? What made you stick your head in the septic tank, as I'd say?
Well, I think it's the idea of connecting to people, and it's when you're in the business that I'm in, or if you're in a business that takes you away from the public in some way or some fashion, it's tough to connect and to let the people that follow you let them know what kind of person you are, just because I just feel like it's the human thing to do, and I it's questionable whether Twitter is going to be the right way to do things, but I'm giving it a go, and I'm constantly getting screwed over by people, and but there is a connection. I know for a fact that I am connecting to some people because I know it does help them, and it does make them feel like that even if I'm not what they think, they may think that I'm like some kind of billionaire just because I'm an actor and stuff like that. If they, even if they think that, I want them to still know that I'm just like them and you and us. And, although that isn't my life at all, my wife and I and my kids, we don't have a Hollywood life at all. We live in New York in a typical house, and we live a very typical life away from, the Hollywood parties. And, I have my actor friends, and they're very few, and I love them. And that's all I have when it comes to Hollywood. So whatever people in their minds think of actors and actresses, then I want to make sure that they understand that we also believe in connection, that I do anyway. And I think it's important to suffer humiliation and to be able to speak honestly, whether you agree or disagree with somebody in social media. I think humility goes a long way when it comes between two people.
Yeah, when you say, no, what was it, screwed over by people, do you mean when people are just horrible?
No, there have been occasions where people have tried to take advantage of knowing me on Twitter, and and that's always daunting because it's always who you least expect. But on the other hand, it is to be expected. I'm not naive, and it's just that those aren't the best times that you can have on social media.
Yeah, so it kind of reflects the, what do you call it, the thing that people just do in Hollywood, where it's like, oh yeah, we've met once, so I now am going to tell people I know you and we're besties.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it goes a bit farther than that when it comes to social media. It goes a bit farther. I can't really get into it because I don't want to expose anybody, because I don't think that's the decent thing to do. But I just simply, you just never know how far they're going to go, so you block them and hope that it, and you don't expose them, and you don't try to humiliate them, or I don't. and then you hope that they eventually the human side of them comes out and they calm down. I mean, we'll see. So far so good, and so it's a little scary. I'm putting myself out there, and I have a constant battle inside myself, as I'm sure all of us do. I know you do at times. That
Yeah.
that we should be on there at all, because it always feels like a little bit like we're taking a chance, putting ourselves out there, and that's something that I when I'm not busy doing everything else, and I find an hour or two to get on there and connect with people, that I feel like it's always there inside me. It's a giant question mark.
Yeah, I admit I get there quite a lot with Twitter, because
Yeah.
I'm sat in this professional world. I'm definitely on Twitter. I don't change myself that much, and for better, for worse. I mean, I have not got clients for dumb reasons on Twitter. I mean, they were like, "You curse on Twitter," to which I said, "Okay, if you're not going to work with me for that reason, it's probably best you just don't know me, let alone work with me."
Right.
But it is this weird exposure of yourself, and the whole foundation of this podcast was about the kind of weird parts of the online. But I feel like Twitter is this very bizarre creature that it does things to people. It's got an even more extreme reaction is caused with people.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's a much more, for some reason, well, not for some reason, for obvious reasons, a much more personal exchange, because you can immediately go back and forth with somebody, like on a blog or something. But I never did that kind of thing before. Twitter is my first kind of experience with it. But, I have a feeling that as long as I keep being honest and shut people down when I think they need to be shut down, when they start harassing other people on my feed, and they start harassing me, and like, I give them a couple of chances, and then they're just gone.
Yeah, I've noticed you're kind of lighthearted about it sometimes, but not in others. You had the brilliant tweet about human rights for all, and you had the tiny little sombrero, which I think is the best response to someone, other than your other one where, what, did you pour ice on yourself or something like that? Those awesome. Did you take them specially, those pictures?
Those are just pictures that me and my sons, when we're visiting places, we take silly pictures, and those happen to be two of them.
That rules. It's really interesting though, because I find with celebrities, there's two sides. There's usually the ultra mediated ones like Alyssa Milano, where she's got her causes, she says her specific things, she doesn't engage with anyone. And then you go all the way down to the other side, where it's they engage with literally everyone. And then you're somewhere maybe a little bit towards the ultra engaged, but there are people who maybe not as famous as you, who are very engaged to a crazy level where they're constantly in some sort of argument.
Yeah.
And I don't know how people do it. It's just it's exhausting for me, and albeit I'm extremely online, but I don't really engage with that many people. But even then, people just say random stuff, just random, sometimes incredibly offensive stuff.
Yeah, they do. They do. I don't get it either. I really don't. I don't understand why they think that that's communication. But, as you know, the truth is that, who knows what these people's lives are like. These people could have great lives, and they just do it for some kind of weird fixation that they have, or they could have terrible lives. I mean, you just don't know where it's coming from. And I mean, as you have, and most people in life, as you live your life, when you've been on the earth for, a good 30, 40 years, you understand that there are, people react differently to different things. People express themselves in different ways, and some of them are quite harsh. And you have to imagine that when you have the ability to masquerade yourself or fly under a false flag, which we get a lot of, then there's going to be an abundance of it. an abundance of harshness, so to speak.
I think Twitter's also unique because it, perhaps not identically, it actually reflects how verbal conversation happens in written form. It's very, things just happen. They're very quick. It's very, people react to and use Twitter like a conversation, not like a back and forth necessarily, but when I say something, it's gone. Except there is an immutable ledger with Twitter. Except you can, I guess it's not immutable.
Yeah. The most interesting thing to me about it is that, I can write sometimes like an 8-page tweet, a succession of tweets. And if people have never seen those long tweets of mine before, they have no idea what's going on. And that is, if they stick with it, that is in a way making them pause. And that's an interesting thing to think about, because if it falls into the hands of these harsh types that just want to argue, and if it makes them pause for a moment, then, that's good for them. And to not take me that seriously, that I can write about a mouse or I can write about, a hawk or a donkey, or, I think to throw that into the mix of what goes on is, I think it's quite appropriate. And I don't think that enough people are doing that kind of thing, that there needs to be a lighter side to the whole thing. I mean, for God's sakes, if you think about it, it's fucking ridiculous. It's ridiculous what we're doing. There's no real reason other than connecting. And I mean, if social media was just for fundraising and to organize for many different things, whether it be politics or business, if it was just for that, that'd be one thing. But it's obviously not. It's obviously just it's an amusement park of different types of people that go to enjoy themselves, and some are grifters and liars and just horrendous people, and some are just simple people who are looking for a connection, and a human connection with no agenda added to it. That's the thing, It's clear that on my page there's no agenda. It's just I reach out, people reach out, and I touch back, and they touch back, and there's no further agenda. And that's why it's difficult on my page. I know other pages are different, but on my page, it's difficult to deal with the grifters who then try to make money off you or do something. It's daunting, but I'm not naive, like I said. So, but it's a crazy place.
Yeah, and I think it's not that it's good, it's bad, but the grifting side, I'm actually surprised knowing anything has happened. I have no idea what the details are, probably best I don't, but that any grifting is it's very human to expect that to happen, and for that to happen, they see someone famous.
Right.
They see someone with something they want even, and they see it as an opportunity to get somewhere. And I'm in an industry where that's pretty much every relationship that they're, except it's more honest, so it's not quite a grift. But I'm actually surprised you haven't, I don't mean this negatively, stopped. It shows a degree of strength, or at least hope, towards these people, because it's very human for them to talk to you and be like, oh, I know a famous person now. What can I get? But I guess maybe that's it with Twitter. There is some sort of inherent transactional nature to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
People expect a response. People think one thing I think you've quote tweeted, and a lot of people who get harassed on Twitter say this, it's like, we don't owe you a response. But these people say, yes, you do. You owe me a response. You owe me basically to stick on one subject. And if you don't, then what am I reading this for? You can't tweet about a donkey. Why would you do that? I came here for the film stuff, I think. It's like you don't owe them anything, but people feel very much like you do. Like a follow means you're now related somehow. I don't know. There's a weird transactional part there too.
Yeah, I know. I think you're I'm following what you're saying. I think it has a little bit to do with all this stuff. It's it's such a, it seems like it would be an easy way to communicate, but it's not an easy way to communicate. It's difficult because it's just, you're limited on what you can say. And, it's really super rude to just say a bunch of awful things. And, I think I don't think I curse on Twitter. I don't think I have. I mean, I definitely do in real life, but I don't.
Yeah,
I don't on Twitter. But I think that it's difficult to have a conversation with somebody. It just is. I mean, but the effort it's not a lot of effort. It's just to be able to translate what they're actually saying from the words in the tweet to what they actually feel and what's actually going on inside them is different than obviously having a regular conversation to somebody eye to eye. So there's a lot missing out of it that can be misconstrued and this and that. And then there's just some outrageous things that you can't possibly believe that the person is serious when they're saying it. And, it's like the most extraordinary things people say. And they repeat them over and over and over again. You just think at one point, you're just thinking like, okay, it's most likely it's a bot. But if it's not, then this person needs to just, settle down, and I'm not beyond telling them to just settle down. I think being a father and a brother and a husband, I think, I don't mind sharing that part of me with people if I think they need to be told to sit down or shut up,
And I feel that there's this really weird, insidious nature as well to all of this, because you even said it yourself. Oh, they might be a bot. Truth is, I've seen a lot of people say that. I don't mean it's criticism, but I don't think it is. All it's doing for me is, perhaps I've been online too long, I've been fully irony poisoned, but I remember when I was even on CompuServe or the early IRC chat, so the live chat type things over gaming, people were just as horrible, if not more, except there's even more, I don't even know how to put it, there's even more ridiculous things they will say. And now they can do this minutiae of selective research. They'll go, oh, well, actually, I saw on theracistpundit.com that Hillary Clinton is a third lizard and all shotguns are actually technically dogs. I don't know how I found this information, but here you go, I'm correct. And they will come at you in this crazy way. I don't really get. They're so defensive, especially with you. You touch a nerve more often than not.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
I think it's probably that just you're so. I don't mean this offensively. You've been acting well. I think a lot of people see, have flown to you, especially because of the Kingpin. I think they respect it. And also for a lot of these very nasty right-leaning guys, a big, strong guy who has all the money, to them seems like someone they can imprint themselves onto. This is a bit of a crazy theory, but they see this powerful man who beats up the do-gooder, a strong man, and then they can't discern that from real life, obviously. So they're like, why's the Kingpin mad at me? I think there has to be a degree of that.
Yeah, which is, it's just ridiculous. Just to imagine that, I mean, just from my point of view, to imagine that could be going on in somebody's head when they know, in fact, that I'm a human being, and that, it's ridiculous. It comes to and from my point of view, it's ridiculous that they would. Yes, they would maybe appreciate a performance or maybe not. But regardless of whether they like what I do or not, they know that I'm a person doing it. And so to leave that, to let the fact that I'm a person go to the wayside is just, it's ridiculous. I was going to say that, I used to do this, I used to do a lot of traveling and stuff for law enforcement, for local and state and federal. I used to spend a lot of time with fallen officers' families. And the reason why I did that is because I had done that show CI for so long, and nobody ever did anything for the people we were representing. And so as soon as I stopped doing the show, I kind of threw myself into doing whatever I could for the families of federal agents and state law enforcement and local, like I said. And what everybody expected was, for me to do some kind of like little circus thing where cameras would be there, and that's not what I did at all. I would just go and sit with these people until, as long as they allowed me to, and speak to them and let them speak to me mostly about who they lost. And by the end of those meetings, I was like I should be to them, just a guy, just like they are, and just a person, and that's an extraordinary feeling to see that transition happen within them. It was a wonderful feeling for me, and it's the only chance that I get in the position that I'm in to see that kind of thing, because we have one thing in common. We have the death of this person, and I'm there to listen and learn about this person, and that's something they need to do to help let the sadness and the tragedy roll over them. And so, I'm used to that kind of perspective, and I know that the limited connection that I have on Twitter doesn't allow for a lot of that. And so I think that's where my drive is. My drive is to try to just let people understand that, I do very, little career stuff on Twitter. Sometimes I talk to my friends, and then these companies that I'm doing projects for, they ask me to tweet stuff. So I tweet the show that's coming out soon or whatever. I'll do that. But, as most of the things that I do are not anything about my career. I mean, people ask me lots of questions, and I try to answer them in the most honest way I can. But the main thing is, in what you started this conversation off, is that I try to connect, and but that doesn't mean they are going to connect in the right way back. So I have to expect there to be confusion, and sometimes people their eyes will just glaze over, and I'm just this guy who is this image to them, and it's sad because there could be a stronger connection. But there has been occasions where I have connected with people like you. I have connected with people over funny stuff, just straight out goofy comedy shit. And I have connected with people over love and loss and tragedy. And so it's rare. It's far and few between, that's for sure. But it does happen. And there's something that tells me that it's important. Look, it could all backfire on me, and there's that chance. And like I told you, every day I contemplate ever going back. But we'll see. It's when it's funny, it's fucking funny, and when it's absurd, it's absurd.
Well, have you ever had any? It's good news if it hasn't. Have you ever had any? But other than the usury, like putting that aside, have you ever had anyone from real life, someone ostensibly not of online or not online that much, react negatively or to something you've done on there?
No.
That's good. Well,
yeah.
Because I asked that because you've done a lot of anti-Second Amendment stuff.
Yeah.
That's the one with and I agree with that fully. I say that as an actual gun owner, I'd be the first person to hand it over,
right?
Because I use it for competition stuff. But I think it's interesting with that. And to my point earlier, to modify it slightly, maybe they don't think of you literally as the kingpin, like that's who I'm talking to on Twitter. But I feel like it's part of the, as you do in real life, part of the loaded gun of walking up to someone and having a an expectation of them.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
They expect you to just talk about, I don't know, comics
Right.
or
Right.
but it's more ludicrous the more they remember your actual work.
Yeah, but which is fine. They everybody has expectations, and they should be allowed to have any expectation they want from me. They're not going to get anything that I don't want to give, and that may disappoint. But yeah, I know you're onto something there, I think.
Yeah, it's just, for example, I see it a lot with PR people. And I think it applies to almost everyone on Twitter specifically, maybe Facebook, maybe LinkedIn, but specifically Twitter. There is this weird evolution you have, and then it splits off a bit because you start off as completely ad hoc, just no expectations of Twitter. Perhaps you've looked at a few people's things and you just play around. Then you usually get to a point where you mediate yourself a lot, and then you choose whether you ultra mediate or somewhere in the middle, or just completely off the rails.
Yeah.
And I feel that mediation, especially for famous people, is very difficult. And I've been, perhaps I haven't been aggressive about it, but I've definitely judged celebrities who don't, especially early on in Twitter. I was like, why aren't these people responding to me? And it was stupid and immature. But there is this weird, I don't think Jack can actually describe what Twitter is.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can, and that's part of the issue. So you go into it with these, there are just expectations you have, and people get mad when people don't respond. People say, you're ignoring me. People just say mean stuff at random. I mean, I've had people get demanding with my dog pictures. I've had people straight up.
It's terrible.
Yes, I didn't post any for a while because 3 or 4 people would just hammer me. Like, where are they?
Yeah.
It's a special kind of psychosis.
Yeah, I know. It's odd. It is. It's you have to, I don't know. I mean, it's such a weird subject to be talking about because it's, we, in the end, we're putting ourselves out there. So it's really up to us to decide what we want and what we don't. And so in a way, we're asking for trouble and we're getting it.
Yeah.
and but that doesn't mean it's not that it's, which doesn't mean that it's the wrong thing to be doing. It's fine. It's just, it's just connecting, and also it's advertising, and and in my case, I think it's connecting. I know that there's some older people out there who are aging up, and they enjoy a good conversation. And if they loved me on Law and Order for whatever, how many years, and they realize that they can actually have a conversation with me, and I can say happy birthday to them, and I can give them hugs, and I can tell them that everything is going to be okay, and that I believe in what they believe in, and I think it's important. I don't know why it's important, but it's important. I'm not a religious guy. I meditate, as you know, and I just think that to get some of these older folks, just simply tweeting me back, thank you, with no hoopla, no nothing, just a thank you, is it's not because I do many films. I don't do enough plays. I don't get a lot of applause. I don't hear the applause. And so I prefer to hear it on those grounds as a human connection than I would as a performer. Because I've been doing it too long. I'm too jaded to be appreciative, completely appreciative of any applause. I prefer to get it on a human level. If that makes sense.
That is interesting. No, it totally does. And it makes me think about this weird, it does it because levels of applause seem to be a unique thing about, say, Facebook rather than Twitter. Because Facebook, it's all people you voluntarily add unless you change the features. But let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that's most of what people do. It's very voluntary, very controlled. Twitter, by definition, it's almost like sticking your hand in that box from June. It's just willingly, it is willingly, especially on your level, saying, I'm probably going to get hurt at some point.
Yeah.
The more connections you get, the more confusing and aggressive I find people are. It's definitely got weird for me where I've had people, perhaps not quite as weird as the dog one, but I've had people straight up say to me, like, weird stuff. It's never normal stuff. Like the other day, I got introduced to a new part of Twitter that thinks North Korea's good. And yeah, it was very bizarre. It was I said something about the genocide there, that they've been putting people in concentration camps. I got people saying, fuck you, you piece of shit. Oh, yeah, you know nothing. And it's just, wait, what?
Right.
And it turns out there's a whole part of Twitter that just is very, very left-leaning. I mean, I'm left-leaning, but they're very left-leaning, but they're also extremely anti-imperialist to the point that they're anti-American imperialism. And this is just stopping myself there. This is the problem with Twitter, and the great part about Twitter. You get exposed in a fire hose to all these people's thoughts.
Yeah.
Sadly, you're also exposed to all these people's thoughts.
Yeah.
And they are absolutely, some of them are, I hate saying nutters, but yes, nutters. And it's...
Oh, there are definitely nutters. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. Look, I'm pleasantly surprised in a big way when there are hunters, sportsmen out there, there are farmers out there that they break through they're right politically. They're politically on the right, but they still break through the nonsense. And they tweet me because they see the comments that I make, and they try to have civil conversations with me. Some are just idiots, and they just repeat the same thing over and over and over again until you just say, look, you're spreading false information. Go away. If you're not going to go away, I'm going to block you. And then they keep in use, they're out. But then you'll get this guy. There was this guy on, there was two guys that come to my mind, but there was plenty more. One was a farmer, and he used one of these semi-automatics to kill hogs, wild hogs that were disrupting his farm, and to me, that doesn't bother me that this guy has that rifle. It doesn't bother me. This guy's so busy trying to make a living and trying to keep his farm going, because as you know, and everybody knows, farms these days are, they were always hard to keep, and now it's just worse than ever. So, that doesn't bother me at all. And then there was this other guy, and we actually had a conversation. I happen to know a lot about long arms and stuff like that, just because of, my career and because I've been shooting I've shot probably more types of weapons than most people, I would imagine. And there was this other guy last night, and we got into a discussion about, he was listing the things that he thought should be made illegal, and I thought his list was pretty good. Of course, he brought up a point about that hunting rifles can never be made into automatic, and I said, and so he kind of goofed up, and I corrected him. I said that's not the worry. The worry is obviously assault style rifles that can get stocks that will change them into automatic rifles. And he said, yes. And then he tweeted me back saying this whole thing about how that should be taken care of and that should be legalized. But yet he's a far right guy. He's a member of the NRA, and yet he's still, they come through. So on one hand, to me, that's a real conversation.
Yeah. And it's interesting as well, because a lot of these people, and I actually don't judge people for this. I don't think it's fair to judge them for this, but I don't know if I know as much as you do, but I absolutely know my guns. Mm-hmm. I have 3 rifles, 2 shotguns, 2 handguns. I love shooting in a range,
Mm-hmm.
I can understand why people would have. I actually fundamentally do not believe that there's any need for most people to have, or really any citizen. But again, there are still edge cases like you were discussing to actually have anything chambered like a 223.
No, I
I
don't
just
think so.
don't see the point.
I don't either.
They're just ridiculous, murderous weapons. But I think one of these inherent issues, which goes up to the government, not just in Twitter as well, is a lot of these people have, again, this very, what's the term? Well, very one side or the other, very ridiculous reaction on either side. It's either ban every gun and I've never shot one, but I hate them, which actually I understand fully, or the guns are the best, tape 13 AR-15s together and I will shoot them gladly at any intruder on my property. There's very rarely, like you said, people who just say, and I believe way more people are out there who are way in the center there.
I
But
do
don't
too.
think enough on either of those sides are educated on it. And by educated, it's been on the very anti-gun side. Shoot a gun. That's the only way you're going to actually learn about these weapons and understand not just that you hate them, but why, and then make intelligent legislation. Bump stocks to that point, they're ridiculous. They can't even hit anything. They just send the gun flying.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they were used pretty much only by assholes and terrorists. But I repeat myself. And it's just the weird conversation of Twitter is just this weird knife in the vein of any conversation. Sometimes you'll get these human conversations, but it seems that there's something about a tweet, this little web page with someone's random, probably not super planned out thought. And this thought then goes to someone else and they have this very visceral reaction. Anything to do with guns, in your case, from what I've seen, is just immediately people just take it as a personal offense.
Yeah.
They think of Obama walking in Nosferatu style,
right,
and nicking guns. The guns are mine now. Versus, and it's weird that then they're pro mental health. There's the fallacy of like they're pro mental health. Sorry, mental issues. You can't have a mental issue and have a gun, but also nobody should have Medicare for all, so nobody can really afford to not. Like, it's really bizarre because there's this hypocrisy. But I also wonder if Twitter doesn't just bring to the service the most polarized, that was the word I was looking for, people. It just gives them a voice in this terrifying way.
Yeah. I mean, there's, in all businesses, in everybody's lives, there are numbskulls. There are just complete fucking idiots. And you'll find them everywhere. You don't have to look far. You and I and the whole population of the world knows exactly the kind of people we're talking about. They're just idiots. And there's a lot of them. And, they just, basically the nicer way to put it is what you said before, is like people that just don't think things through. And that's the kind of idiot I'm talking about. So you will get people saying to me on Twitter that, if you come to get my gun, I'll shoot you. First of all, don't they know that that's like, to tell somebody you're going to shoot them no matter what the context is a threat? You know what I mean?
It's a crime.
Yeah. And then, but there's that bit of knowledge that's missing, which is maybe too much to ask. Then there's the knowledge missing that they don't realize that they are exactly the people we're worried about, that get so flustered having these guns that they'll shoot people. And that's like a flag. That's a red flag. So they are in fact yelling out to the world, hey, I have a gun, I have a right to have it, and I'm dangerous with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like the most absurd thing. A guy said that to me last week or a week before or whenever. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, dude, you realize that that's a threat. That is not you. That is not your best self. And
if it is, you've got issues.
You've got issues. And that's just why we need gun laws. He's kind of, he dug his own hole when it came to his position. It's not good.
And just on top of that, these people are the same ones I found. Yes, there are people who are trying to have civil conversations, but with any kind of internet threat, I always just wonder deep down. Okay, I've been pissed off. I've been pissed off at like random people online. Absolutely, it's human to just, if someone says something mean to you in general, to go be like, "Hey, what the fuck?"
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, when someone's like, "I'm going to shoot you if you come and take my guns," do they not realize that's not just, all right, take away the illegality? It's just nutty. It's just genuinely like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is wrong with?
Like, who says that? Who talks to people like that?
Just casually as well, because it is casual. It's just like, just sitting online telling some people I'm going to murder them brutally with a weapon.
Right.
And while I tell them that guns are a normal thing that normal people should have, but if you come near me and my guns,
I'll kill you.
I will murder you.
Yeah.
I will literally shoot you to death.
Yeah. Because you want to take, because I have this delusion that you want to take all of my guns and all of my freedoms away from me. Just one little visit is going to do that. Yeah. You're going to do that. That's why I hate you, and that's why you should die. Because of my delusion. That's what they're saying.
TV. Yeah, and also Vincent from the TV.
Yeah,
I am going to murder you because you mentioned taking my. It's like, what the?
Yeah.
If you turn up at my house and be like, "Oh, do you want a bottle of wine or something?" It'd be fine. This guy's like, "You turn up on my house, I will shoot you." Dinner is off. I'm not getting takeaway or anything.
Yeah.
It's just this bizarre thing. I mean, when I started this podcast actually with Felix, so Felix with Chapo Trap House is he's actually really, he has a very funny way of looking online, and people still get really pissy with him. But we always talk about just these people who take it way too far, and there is something really unique about Twitter for that. I mean, over the years, we've seen people. Like, there was one guy who tweeted at Taylor Swift every day.
Yeah.
Like something involving the phrase "moi" and "sweetie."
Yeah,
his account is now gone, and deep down, I do genuinely wonder what happened to him. I want to know where Ishmael is, but that's the kind of nice version of a much more.
Well, you think he's been like fed to the pigs or something?
I like the idea that him and Taylor Swift are going out. That's what
you'd like to think that.
Like, read his tweets about being in Ashley Furniture, and just be like, "What a sweet guy." It's not remotely what happened. It's probably
I don't. For some reason, I doubt that was actually.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
he was driving his like Camry and flipped it 4 times, tweeting "one sweetie" to her.
Oh my god,
he's dead.
Well, I hope
poor
not.
Guy.
Yeah.
R.I.P. dude. But that's the thing. It's Twitter. Facebook does it to some extent. You still get the crazy type people, these polarized nutters, but I feel like Twitter is just, they don't even know remotely how to deal with it. And Jack, what was it? Jack Dorsey said he was going to he's going to ask people to help him work out how to tell how toxic Twitter is. And it's probably the most lawless, horrible social network for that reason. The CEO's just, 10 years in, just gone, "Oh, could you help me out?
Yeah.
I only have millions of dollars. I'm too stupid to work this out."
Yeah. Yeah, he's just doing, it's ridiculous. I mean, that is such a pathetic reach out that it's,
They don't, I don't know if they don't care.
Of course they don't care.
Just,
I mean, they do a good job of letting you block people. They do a good job when you report people. Some of the threats that I get and stuff. There was a while there last year that I was getting some pretty heavy stuff thrown at me, and it was all within like the same month, and it was just like personal stuff about my kids and things, and so it was horrible. It was truly horrible, and it was coming from different directions. But there was this one guy that I keep getting his account canceled, and he would come back under another account name, and I could, he was so lame that I could tell it was him immediately. It didn't even matter if he said this, not that he said the same words that he had said before under the other account, but just by reading one of his tweets, I would say back, "I know who you are." And there'd be this long fucking pause, and then he would just barrage me with this unbelievable. And they the minute I would report them, they'd be gone. They'd be gone. And so they are, at least whoever's running that part of the shop is they are good at that. And Ed, you have to admit, like I said before, that we're putting ourselves out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's dangerous, but it's fun. I think that that's part of the issue with Twitter, that it's quite tempting on both sides. People like to go on there because you can talk to anyone theoretically.
Yeah.
And people do put themselves, if they don't fully put themselves out there, like you and I, perhaps they still effectively give you a public address.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of the shit I see, and when I start getting it, I'm kind of like, why me? Like, I'm a random PR guy. I guess I'm adjacent to these universes. But even I see weird shit that people say.
Yeah.
I have open DMs, which for better for worse, because I like it. I don't really care.
Right.
And I wouldn't say I get a terribly large amount of bad stuff, but I got one the other day where I had to just report it and actually email someone new at Twitter. Just, what was it they said? It was something like, I found your wife's picture, and then a bunch of stuff I don't even want to find.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It's all right. That was one where I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But that's why I don't believe they're that serious about it, though. What confuses me with your guy, I mean, perhaps they use software to change their IP, like VPN, but he shouldn't be able to come back. Like, it shouldn't.
No, he did it like 4 times too. He'd keep changing up, and he was, it went so far that I was getting pictures from other people that I couldn't take seriously, of course, of who he actually was and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can't believe that stuff either. You just have to go to Twitter, and it's not like I'm gonna, obviously there's a point that where I won't, there's a point where I'll call law enforcement if I feel it goes into an area. Like, there's one particular thing going on right now that if it goes past a certain area, I will call the feds for sure. But that's that's most likely not going to happen, and most likely these idiots are just. It's a couple of things that they're doing. They're either just having the best time of their lives, and this is how they do it, being awful and attacking people's personal lives. And it thrills them to no end, and it just makes them the happiest human being in their area. And so that's the one thing. The other thing is that they're seriously ill, and that they have mental health issues, and they need to vent. And so that's the other thing. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but it is in fact true. I've spent a lot of time with people that have issues, as you know, and I know how people get angry and frustrated with their lives, and they take it out on other people. And there's that, and then the only one left is really the fact that they don't know better, that this is the life that they lead, and so that their life, the bubble that they're in, is that kind of hostility. And they do know what they're doing, and they do know that they're antagonizing and being provocative, but that's the world in which they live in. And that's the most dangerous one. That's the most dangerous one. Those are the ones that know what they're doing and yet keep on doing it. And so, luckily I haven't had to deal with that yet. And I hope that I never do. But I know people that have had to deal with that on social media, and it's never fun. So I'm just hoping that nothing like that happens. And I am more careful than I was last year. I've pulled back a lot. So I'm going to continue to do that. Right? I mean, that's the best thing to do, don't you think?
Yeah. What else can you do?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Twitter also is. I made a joke a long time ago about it being said like a player versus player game versus a player versus environment game. And I do think it triggers some of that, if not gamified stuff. It has this. I think it's scratching an itch within certain people. Not a great. And I am a sympathetic person when it comes to. understanding you have bad impulses, you do something that's not great, learning from that and all that good stuff. But I feel like for a lot of these people, it's triggering this very public discourse that they've always kind of wanted, but not for good reasons. It's not like they're, to your point of, oh, they want to make a great connection, they want to know more humans. It's they're finally what they consider a public bully pulpit, if you will, where they can start shitting their opinions all over people, and they have to listen. And even before they're blocked, they have to listen, even if it's one. And I almost worry about, not that there's really any way to actually tell them, but if these people were told, oh, well, that really hurts someone. There are some people who I've actually then met in real life, like random PR people in some cases, a journalist or two, who have just been a fucking asshole over Twitter. And then I've met them in real life and they've been fine.
Yeah.
And I've actually, in one case, won't name them, I actually said, oh, fuck you, man. Be as rude to me as you are online. Be as big an arsehole. Have the brass ones to actually say that shit. And I think it does uncork that same, it's kind of I think it's an well, actually probably isn't. It's a classic joke about Xbox Live when it first came out. It's like, oh, it's just all young kids screaming slurs. But I feel like Twitter has uncorked accidentally, and they don't have any way to control it. They're just completely gone.
Yeah.
They've uncorked this horrible part of people.
Yeah.
And they've given them access to celebrities.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really seem like a good idea.
Yeah, but we can always pull out. And a lot of them do, and a lot of them just tweet politics, and a lot of not just celebrities but public figures. They keep their, like you said earlier, they keep their Twitter compartmentalized. They only tweet out with certain ideas. They don't go personal. They don't do anything. They just tweet in this one realm only. And I think it's probably a smarter thing to do, I think.
Yeah.
But then I would just quit, because I really don't want to, I really don't like talking about movies that I have coming out. I mean, I'm not very good with that. And I'm fine just the way my life is. I don't need to be any more successful or not or anything like that. So if I was, if the minute I feel like, okay, I can't put myself out there anymore, I'm not going to just stay on Twitter and use it for advertising or something. I'll just go.
Yeah. I think to wrap it up, it is just, that's where I think, unless Twitter develops something really amazing, we're not going to see people like you anymore. We're not going to see people interact, people trying to make a connection, because, and I don't envy their job, because ultimately, where's the line? Where is the line that you cut someone off? Is it the moment they swear? Probably not. Otherwise, I will get banned. And I feel that there is just this impossible task that they've created for themselves. But in fairness, who the hell knows what you'd have to do? Who the hell knows the scale at which you'd have to edit this? Because how do you edit what is effectively millions, billions of streams of, in some case, garbage shit, but lots of people saying things to different people, and you will effectively either go just completely lawless, or there's going to be classism. There's going to be the famous people, maybe verified, maybe not, or just the underclass. It's just a worrying future for Twitter.
It is. It would be nice. I see the only immediate idea that comes to mind as like for a starting point would be to be able to regulate exactly how many people you're actually dealing with on a daily basis. Like how many actual human beings are able to have access to your tweets, and to be able to control that you stay in a certain realm. You're able to pick your levels of how vast you want to go. And I think that people would, if they were given that choice, they would stay in smaller groups. I really do. I really do.
You need to be able to control the foes. Look, Vincent, thank you so much for your time today. It's been such a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Ed, you're welcome, man.
All right, well, you've been listening to The Scumbag. We are back intermittently. Stick around and follow us at Scumbag Podcast. Thank you.